Welcome back everyone, I'm Craven and this is Into Reverie. We are in the post-game and we just finished off the story part that we had in the game. Yes, that's all behind us now, and we have two things that I still want to do before calling it done. Over. Quits. And that is the Daydream we unlocked at the end of the episode, and maybe seeing if we can complete Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which will be a harder difficulty in itself. Which is not a must, but I feel like we should be able to do that, because it's just a game of memory, isn't it? Because there are like 20 or 30 questions in total. If we fail enough times, we will succeed. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but that is how it works if you don't know all the answers.
Slab of Reminiscence activated.
But we'll see. For now, let's go with our Daydream, the Beyond the Reverie. Looks a little bit like the multiverse branching out, isn't it? There are but minute fragments of memories drifting in an endless ocean, memories of what will be in the near future. Another look into what's coming up? Could they be shadows of the tangled threads woven by Elysium, or perhaps faded illusion that slipped through the cracks of time and space? There are none who know the answer, but the developers. Okay, another hot spring paradise. January, year 1208 of the Septient calendar. Between two great mountains at the tip of a Calvarian Beza sits Long Lai. The town is known for two things, being the eastern entrance to the Republic and its exceptional hot springs. Through these enticing factors, does it continue to welcome tourists hailing from both home and abroad. Yet, today it serves guests quite unlike its many unseasoned visitors. These had come from another renowned hot springs paradise situated in the northern reaches of Erebonia. The depth of flavor in the food here is just exquisite. Agreed, the Phoenix Wings food is certainly nothing to sneeze at, but I have my doubts the chef could replicate dishes this unique in taste. The Bishanin's reputation continues to precede itself. Baron Theo and Lady Lucia Schwarzer were sampling the inn's culinary delights, spirits high and stomachs filling fast. Their daughter Elise sat next to them, her spirit a bit lower by comparison as her brows furrowed with concern. I'm sure its luxuries come with just an equally luxurious price tag, and there's 4 of us, so even 2 nights must have cost a small fortune. Upon realizing what she said, she shook her head. Oh, I didn't mean to damper the mood. I know we have the money, but all my budgeting as student council president has made me a terrible habit of me seeing the numbers in everything. Her older brother Rean couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Then the budget buster in you will like how much we say, because we're not here as paying customers. We were invited by the owners personally. They said they wanted to get to know us since we run similar establishments, so we're here. And they'll be invited them to Emir sooner than later, of course. Right, Dad? Oh, absolutely. Add this to the list of boons coming from our countries finally coming to terms with one another. The Republic is reveling in unheard of levels of prosperity, and the relations between our people are more active and festive than ever. I, for one, welcome an opportunity to further foster friendship. The Baron took another healthy sip of its baijiu before continuing. Friendship over fighting, I say. Such a shame that the world tends to overcomplicate that simple concept. Seeing her husband's glass was almost empty, Lucia filled it to the brim while adding her own thoughts. Oh, that's all more the reason why we need to make the most of this invitation and enjoy ourselves to the fullest. The children nodded in agreement. And even that aside, there's no reason to spoil a family vacation when we so rarely have time to take them. Oh, I read about some unusual sweet dishes worth trying here. Would you like to share some with me, Rean? In a bit. I'm thinking of taking another soak in the hot spring, so I might be in the mood for something sweet after. The food here is delicious, but as far as I'm concerned, the hot springs are the real star of the show. That's my boy right there. The ruling lord of the hot springs paradise would never let a good discussion about them pass him by. He was as fond of their quality and soothing effects as Rean, enthusiasm undeniably apparent from the warmth of his tone to the width of his smile. The medicinal spring happened to be a favorite of mine. I can't help but be fascinated by them time and time again. I can't believe it! I've always known about them, but here's the first place I've been able to feel the way they warm you right to your core. Think we could make one available at the Phoenix Wings? It'd be worth a try, but that comes with its own obstacles. For as many problems as Theo expressed in practical terms, Rean held just as many proposed solutions. The conversation grew more involved by the minute, leaving the ladies of the house to pleasantly bask in their glow and continue enjoying the meal before them. All four felt the same, that it had been too long since they could enjoy each other's company, but the wait had been well worth it. That night, after indulging in his post-dinner soak in the springs and telling his family he was going for a walk, Rean departed the inn. Alright, let's do this. He took in a deep breath, the crisp night air of Longley filling his lungs. The hot springs were an excellent bonus to his trip, to be sure, but it was not the real reason he agreed to visit. He had come in search of Yun Kafai, the famed sword hermit. Master Kafai was founder of the elite One Blade School, of which Rean was a practitioner, and though now over 70 years old, he was still regarded as one of the strongest combatants on the continent. They had not met since before Rean's enrollment at Thor's. Many a letter was exchanged during the 4 years that followed, but even they stopped after Rean earned the right to call himself a Divine Blade over a year ago. There was so much he wished to discuss with his master. What he had learned in his 4 years of training, what had transpired since becoming a Divine Blade, the true meaning behind being the final blade to master the 8 leaves. There's plenty I'd like to ask that have nothing to do with swordsmanship too. All these questions, all impossible to answer without first knowing the whereabouts of a single individual. Even a senior practitioner like Cassius Bright claimed ignorance, having received not a single update from their master. He had always been an elusive but traceable sort, but wherever he was now, he was next to impossible to track. That was until word of the Blade Master being sighted in Longley reached Rean's ears. The man held a fondness for the town's specialties, those being the hot springs and its frequent tea leaves, making the sighting worthy of particular note. He also knew from the letters before they stopped that he intended to journey eastward, making Longley one of the more plausible stopping points. The word came to him just as the Schwarzers were invited to stay at the inn during their New Year vacation. Rean's instinct told him the timing was a little too fortunate, but with how vague the lead was, even it would most likely result in him leaving the same as had he arrived. While he had not discussed the rumor being key to his traveling here, his family seemed to sense it was more than a simple pleasure trip for him. I know Dad would have a great time catching up with him, but I don't want to get his hopes up for nothing. These thoughts in mind, Rean made his way through the night streets. Longley architecture was distinctly Eastern, making it a uniquely intriguing sight amongst most of Calvert's town and cities. This was not to say it was similar to Crossbell's East Street. With subtle colors paired with dignified beauty, every wall and stone exuded the traditional concept of wabi-sabi. One look was enough to understand the region was rich with history. This quiet charm would give way to contrastly living evenings, where tours both westward and farther eastward were greeted to stalls dedicated to the hot springs and more. This too held a traditional sort of charm. Rean asked several merchants if they had any information pertaining to the whereabouts of his master. Somewhat sheepishly purchased a number of souvenirs from their stalls to keep himself from being a nuisance. They, he justified, would make excellent gifts for his friends, his co-workers and his students. I can believe it's almost time for them to graduate. I might be more emotional about theirs than I was for mine. For the first time, Rean would get to experience what it was like for the young birds he had taken under his wing for 2 years to finally leave the nest. Their first year had been eventful, to say the least. What had started as a problem class full of disagreements and mounting tension has slowly grown into one of compassion and understanding for another. It was with each new discovery about themselves and every new ordeal the world sought to impose upon them that they grew not only as individuals, but as a team. He hoped this period would remain as much of a meaningful part of their lives as it would always be for him. The months before the Retributive Tower's appearance had many a trial, making the 10 months that followed in its shadow pass all too quickly. In that time, Rean students continued to mature, building on everything they accomplished in their first year to prepare and settle into their desired future. Indeed, whether it was by overcoming their demons or by learning to work with them in a healthier fashion, their path up till now had been well worn, and while they may have had to rest time to time, he was proud to be a part of why their steps continued to face forward. Proud, but also lonely at the thought of saying goodbye. As their second year drew to a close, lacking in grandiose events, but still rewarding in its own right, it was this mixture of emotion that bore conflict within him most. I can't believe I'll be going through it all over again next year, and even the year after that. Hell, of a career I chose to pursue, huh? He didn't know when he stopped walking. Realizing this, he resumed his search, paying respect in mind to many generations of educators who came before him. No matter where he looked, he could not find Master Kafai in Long Lai. It was, however, still too early to say whether the trip had been in vain, as he had at least caught an unverified report of the Blade Master being seen in the mountains to the south. Wandering such terrain at night wasn't going to be ideal, but Rean was already firm on spending the next day with his family, so tonight it would have to be. Making a brief stop to the inn to tuck his souvenirs somewhere secure, he then departed for his new destination. The mountain's winding, half-beaten trail would be more treacherous at night, but they were not off limits as such. The key, Rean knew, would be to not rely on sight alone. His senses of hearing and smell, perhaps even touch, were going to be equally vital in the hours ahead. Calling upon his experience and intellect to heighten all 5 senses, he took in his surrounding in full. This really takes me back to training in the mountains. To call the experience training would imply his time being one of the simple tutelage between student and master, but it equates to so much more. The danger then was far worse than it was now, with some days requiring him to set foot in highly dangerous territories just to find the day's food to survive. It sounds like the Kundun Mountains may have been used for a similar exercise long ago. Rean was certain to think on the information gained during his search as he continued along the trail. Searching for evidence of human activity in an environment like this was not a difficult task. Humans always leave something indicative of their presence behind that no wild creature could, be it a long dead fire, footprints, or traces of going on the hunt. One need only to follow the like to lead to their source. Rean did so, advancing with the caution instilled in him by both his old master and hunting enthusiast of a father. They soon led him precisely to clear evidence that a human had been in the area, though the evidence itself was far from what he expected. Remnants of a camp? No, this is... well, it didn't look like it had been left by martial artists in training or roaming hunters, but the most peculiar thing was that there were multiple sites, like the first, all evenly spaced from one to the next. It was as though something was being measured. Maybe this is from a group of scholars doing field research? But it seems too large in scale for that. There is nothing more to be found here, Rean advanced. Soon after, he found another unusual amount of evidence. It's like someone forced their way through here. In a car? Or more likely hacked open a path wide enough for a car to pass through. All further inspections here suggested that whoever was responsible had given up on this endeavor, leading him to wonder if they somehow found success elsewhere. And if they did, why had they done this at all? The question pestered him. If there was anywhere to clear wide paths, the remote depths of the mountain certainly were not it, but instinct told him he was only a step away from discovering the answer. If I keep following this trail a little farther... At this thought, Rean sensed someone approaching. One person. 2 people. Yes, there were 2, and it was clear they were aware of his presence as well. Only for a fleeting second did he think they might be the ones responsible for the strange trails, but a deadly tension that now thickens the air told him these were no simple scholars. He felt them draw near, the night veiling themselves well, and then he felt them stop. How about you show yourselves? He spoke with placing his hand on his tachi, signifying to those watching that he had no desire to fight. The silhouettes then silently emerged from the darkest shadow of the mountain. They looked very much like the shinobi of the east he had heard about, their forms clad from top to bottom in black garments and their faces fully obscured. I see you inside poses a threat after all. Divine Blade of the Empire? The contract with our client has yet to begin, but we will make an exception for one among their list of dangerous persons. The silhouette then charged. They caught him completely off guard, drawing short, straight blades to attack him as they narrowed in. Rean's eye widened in surprise, but nearly in the same moment he was in a fighting stance, hands over his still sheathed tachi. 5th form, Morning Moon. He perceived the direction of his foe's attacks to evade them, then mounted a counterattack of his own. All it took was that instant to repel their assault and leave them vulnerable. Ordinarily, this would be time to take the offensive, but all Rean could do was stare at the 2 with disbelief. The thought entered my mind as I saw you move, but now that we've crossed blades... He paused, the disbelief in his eyes giving way to a more intended gaze. Are you practitioners of the 8-leaf school? Another pause, this time from the silhouettes before answering as though they were well aware the question was coming. No, though we do possess ties to the school. We are of the Igaruga, practitioners of the Black God One Blade school. The what now? Rean was left stunned. The 2 Igaruga held their blades horizontally, ready to thrust them forward at any moment. It was though they wanted to make clear that while they had been caught off guard once, he would not be so fortunate twice. Rean responded by assuming the middle stance with his tachi, but just as the sides were only a beat away from engaging in battle, what could only be described as a black cyclone roared from the darkness at such speed that it seemed certain to slice anything it touches. The appearance caught Rean by surprise more than the initial attacks by the silhouettes. He had not suspected an attack from that angle, that distance, or even that moment. His enemies, on the other hand, did not so much as flinch at the sight. The approaching blade of an arch and a half in length was heading directly for Rean's back. He couldn't possibly dodge it now. Perhaps he should have noticed. Perhaps it was impossible to notice. Whatever the answer, the Divine Blade of the Empire would soon fall. The silhouettes waited in for his final moments to be convinced of no other fate in his future. Rean runs upon his body in full circle, applying the intense build in his tachi from the motion to swing. The blow was weighted yet precise, shifting the incoming blade to a new direction without mitigating its near overpowering force. The technique was an application of the first form Helix. There was no greater course in the moment than to use it to redirect the attack without it ever making direct contact. The spinning blade was now significantly off its intended course, but Rean slashed it again, birthing a shockwave that further shifted its path. The blade went flying hairs to the right of the direction it had come from. A hand was there to deftly catch it midair. You may have only recently taken the title, but you're worthy of being called a Divine Blade. All the same, you used the unclouded eye well. From this hand emerged a new figure from the darkness, While he was clad in similar garments to the silhouettes, something about his presence was more inspired by comparison. His musculature was thoroughly discernible beneath his body-covering fortified suit. His every movement, however slight, reflected a complete lack of hesitation, and the faint light of his eyes, visible through his mask, projected no emotion whatsoever. The man possessed the aura of a true warrior, one projected only by those who have fought more battles than was possible to count. Fall back. He is too formidable a foe for you to handle. The silhouette slid into the darkness in an instant. Only the new arrival was left to face Rean. I need to know, who are you and why did you attack me? Our contract forbid the disclosure of such information. You will leave this place now, fledgling Divine Blade. The tone was not one of advice nor one of order. It was as if the man were stating a fact. His calmness veiled an undertone of malice that told Rean what would happen if he did not do as he was told. Yeah, they were gonna fight. I'm afraid I can't do that without an explanation. Not when I haven't found what I'm looking for yet. I understand. Then there's no longer anything to discuss. All they could do was battle. I, Kuragane of the Rogetsu school, shall be your opponent. Kuragane stood at attention, the large blade he had thrown before now pointed. I'd have rather settled this with words, but I can see that it's not an option. Rean sighed and taking his own stance in turn. Then Rean Schwarzer, master of the 8 League's One Blade School's 7th form, shall be yours. The Divine Blade moved instantly. The bizarre weapon Kuragane wielded was less akin to a sword and more 4 equally sized blades arranged in the shape of a cross, their bases connected to a single point. That he could direct his large weighted shuriken as though it was a simple child's toe spoke volumes about how strong he was. Still, even it was not infallible, it was not one to be ideally used in close-range combat. Kuragane appeared to have no other key weapons on hand, either meaning that if Rean could force him to fight where he would be at his most disadvantage, he would very likely come out of this the victor. This was what he had in mind when choosing to act first. Second form, Gale. He closed the gap between them, drawing his blade and made a wide swing towards an opponent in a blink of an eye. Kuragane blocked the blow with ease. That, however, meant nothing in the larger scheme of things. Rean knew well this man's capabilities. As long as the gap between them was closed, and it was, he considered the attack a success. But just as he thought he would be able to push onward and overpower his foe by mounting a newly first assault, Kuragane had split his cross-shaped shuriken in half. The ease at which he did made it clear that this was intended by design. He can dual-wield double sabers? And there was no hiding his shock. In the West, double sabers were seen as relics from the Dark Ages that were difficult to utilize. Crow was the only person Rean knew who was competent with one, and only one. The skill it would take to use 2 was almost too difficult to fathom. His surprise created an opening that Kuragane was not going to let pass unexploited. Possessing twin 2-ended blades allowed the shinobi to perform considerable more strike than Rean, giving him no chance to push back. Steel sparked as their weapons clashed. Kuragane was dominant for some time, but he could do nothing to bolster his advantage. With strike and spark after strike and spark, the advantage was moving back to Rean. This was in part due to him being used to fighting this weapon that defied rationale, but was also because he had been given the time to find what he was looking for. The perfect range in which to attack. Double sabers were forged with a shorter reach than they appeared to have, something inevitable due to their handle being in the middle. It could have been because he used them as shuriken, but the length of Kuragane's sabers were even shorter than Crow's, meaning Rean would have to adjust with the longer length of his blade. It measured patiently, staying only just out of Kuragane's reach and evading the onslaught by a hair's breadth each time prior to the countering. It was calculated quickly thanks to Kuragane's frequent rapid attacks, meaning all Rean had to do now was wait for the right moment. This moment would come in the form of his opponent showing impatience for his stalled battle, driving him to take an unneeded step towards Rean. evading the strike expertly, instantly returning it with an upward diagonal slash. The forceful swing of his tachi made contact with the handle of Kuragane's own swung weapon, knocking it clean out of his hand. Rean dashed forward to make use of the available opportunity, but after only a flicker of bewilderment, Kuragane moved to deny him. He blocked Rean's attack with the double saber still in his possession, then hurled a hidden kunai with his free hand, jumping backwards a significant distance while doing so. Very good, Divine Blade of the Eight Leaves. You may pill to the skills of our princess, but you without doubt deserve your reputation. Princess? Rean's invitation went unanswered as Kuragane took a notably different stance than before. I shall demonstrate my respect for your skill with my finest technique. This put Rean staunchly on guard, sensing heightened. He focused every nerve in his body, fixing his eyes on whatever was coming off Kuragane, who was now gone. Nothing remained where Rean's opponent had just stood. He hadn't taken his eye off him, never eased for even a moment, yet Kuragane was nowhere to be seen. How? He had moved that quickly. Was it some kind of spatial translocation? But there was no sign to indicate either one. Was it that he never moved at all and was still there, sights unseen? No, that wasn't it either. The double saber Rean had repelled to the ground was also gone. I can still sense him, so he hasn't gone far. Rean suppressed the panic welling up within, honing his senses a second time. There was another black cyclone swirled toward him from the shadows. He half expected something of this nature, so with little deviation he was able to deflect it as he did the first time. The attack indicated that Kuragane had resembled his shuriken after recovering his lost half, so he could throw it again. It also indicated, together with the slight change in his surrounding, where he was now positioned. Rean needed a little more time to know where he was for certain. But ahead of making a solid conclusion, the cyclone came at him yet again, from a new angle. That was fast. Though he blocked his attack as well as the last, before he could fully correct his posture, the next cyclone approached. The gap between was getting shorter and shorter. There was another. The time was shorter, and another, shorter. Soon these assorted small cyclones were seemingly growing into a blended grand storm of death, with Rean trapped at its center. It doesn't feel like I'm being attacked by a single person. Does he make phantom copies of himself? He had no idea from where the next cyclone would form, and by the time he located it, the next one was ready. Even the unclouded eye wasn't going to be enough for him to deduce Kuragane's location. Had he been able to repel every blade that met with his so far, that was growing increasingly difficult. I didn't want to use it, but I'm not sure I have a choice. Well aware that doing so would place him in danger, Rean took his mind off the battle. He gave up blocking and evading attacks, dedicating to the bare minimum of his focus to not sustain lethal blows, and focusing his mind inward. He focused on the power he had long cultivated inside of him. The power he had feared, loathed, rejected. The power he now relied on, desired, and nearly surrendered himself to. The power he faced with his loved ones at his side, making it a true part of himself. With his mind clear as day, he unleashed his full strength. Enlightened spirit unification. He imbued his tachi with the great power surging out of him, crying out as he did so, and spinning his body forcibly around to create a circle blade around him. The energy released by his tachi repelled all forthcoming shuriken with ease, and with them Kuragane's phantom copies lurking into the darkness faded to nothing. With that, there you are, he charged toward Kuragane. The man was thoroughly overwhelmed by Rean's sudden counterattack, throwing him completely off balance. There was nothing he could do to repel what would come next. It's time to settle this. Rean swung his tachi downward while pouring all of his might into the final single strike. But just as the two felt the battle was coming to an end, zeroed form, duality. Accompanied by a voice as beautiful as a bell, was a slash tearing through the sky, its color so black it threatened to eclipse the moon. It effortlessly stopped Rean's weapon from reaching its target. But that wasn't all. What? With a high-pitched metallic sound, Rean beloved Tachi was sundered cleanly in two. Princess! Kuragane was taken aback by this new arrival. I heard what was happening from both our scouts. You could have invited me to join the fun instead of keeping it all to yourself. The words as she shied at Kuragane indicated dissatisfaction, but the music of her tone betrayed her excitement. Rean was made to see who this mysterious figure was. A very interesting looking one. Beautiful design. And the sight of her alone took his breath away. She was young, wearing a fortified suit that looked to be a marriage of classical and modern Eastern styles, with long silver hair that almost appeared to glow in the pale moonlight. Her age was likely close to Rean's, perhaps a little younger, with well-defined features that still held traces of adolescence, bearing strikingly in contrast to the empty void behind her eyes. There was the air of a young noblewoman who had been sheltered from impurities all her life, and the stench of a baleful warrior who had bathed in the blood of countless lives. How she was both and neither at once, Rean could not understand, but it was this very quality that made her all the more captivating and dangerous. In the woman's left hand was a large black engraved blade that threatened to freeze him for daring a glance at it. No doubt it was what half Rean's touchy moments ago. What the... Rean fumbled for the words as he clutched the useless handle tightly in his hand. The fair-haired woman only smiled as she looked down upon it. Your weapon was very fine, but it was never any match for my friend, I'm afraid. She spun the black blade in her hands around gently before holding it up towards the night sky, to seemingly display it with pride. It was hardly to see why she wouldn't boast about possessing such a weapon. He had seen many a blade of historical significance, but instinct told him that hers was better than any of those. The blunt side featured an intricate design of deep grey that, while he couldn't discern its meaning there and then, he knew was nothing less than a work of art. There was an aura about it, one cold as ice, that seemed to reject its worldly surroundings, making it capable of cutting through anything it desired. It came in company with a beautiful hilt of deep red that contrasted his body without feeling out of place. The juxtaposition was, in a sense, much a reflection of its wielder, with two opposing natures being distinctive yet also as one. Rean, though, as he observed, her blade was clearly something special, but that alone did not explain the strength behind her attack. He had never heard of the technique she used, but it was certainly connected to the 8 leaves in some way, and the skill she showed executing it made her equal to a divine blade. He was so fixated as these thoughts rushed through his mind that he was only brought out by her sudden laughter. I didn't think I ever met you here. I wonder if our old master is behind guiding us to the same place. Or if it's just happy coincidence. Wait. The manner in which she spoke and her familiarity with Rean gave him a theory. That technique you just used was really something. Consider me intrigued. It's put you a league above more interesting than our senior practitioners. Ah, so he was right. Are you... But before he could hear what he already knew, she turned away, refusing to let him finish the question. He isn't here, so why don't you run back to your family? Go and make the most of your vacation. Just don't let your skill with a blade slip. The world needs it again one day. She spoke with a certain satisfaction as she pointed down the other half of his broken blade, and then she leaped high, seemingly disappearing on the other side of the moon. Rean could only stare, dumbfounded, as she vanished. He couldn't even speak. Kuragane left with her. The Iguruga, the Black God One Blade School, and our senior practitioners. Rean had been unable to fulfill his objective, and not just that, he was left with countless new questions about the people he encountered, and the mountain itself. He felt there was meaning behind being guided to this specific place, but how important it was or what it entailed he did not know. And yet, the person responsible for discerning that won't be me. Looking down at his broken Tachi, he was struck anew with how massive the world truly was, and he realized that his master was confirmed to be somewhere. The purpose of his visit to Longla was nothing more than to enjoy wonderful ordinary vacation with his family. This meeting here was but a peculiar coincidence. For now at least. When I get back, I need to reforce my touchy and myself. Something stirred in his region all across Calvert, but there was nothing he could do about that as he was. All he could focus on was training and bettering himself so he could one day play a part against the next threat that loomed over the distant horizon. New resolve swelling in his soul, he made his way through the now still mountain trail back to where his loved family awaited. Another hot spring paradise. The end. Alright. A book to read and to enjoy. And there's now one line in the background. Okay, so I'm guessing, considering the picture of the Daydream, that there's going to be like 3 stories like this. For now, let's just return to the garden. And I'm hoping that we're allowed to come back and still have that progress. If not, then I will use that to my advantage another time. So, for now, for this episode, let's quickly go over to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I want to all ask you something. Would you all be interested to hearing the other stories that we can go through that Daydream? Because it seems that it's just textual, like reading a book with nice fine pictures to it. Would you want me to read the others and put them out in an episode as well? Because if you do, I'll be more than happy to do so. And if I'm right, and there are 2 more parts to that story, because of the 3 lines in the Daydream picture, I will do them both in one episode together. So just let me know, and I will put them up on the channel as well. So for now, let's have a look.
Sporting stone activated.
At Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. The night before, we'll do 1 round together, and then I will continue.
It's time to play. If you dare.
Of course, until we succeed at this maniac level. That's the one that's been added.
May destiny guide you.
Definitely. I guess a former gangbanger turned brazen with attitudes considered softened over the years. Just how much older is he than Tida? 10 years? 12 years.
Oh, a pity.
Yes, definitely maniac level questions. What is Miriam's unique dish in Trails of Cold Steel 2? No idea. Luxury Choco Fondue.
Next.
Okay. What's the name of the Erebonia's 3rd emperor? Hector? Xion.
Oh, no.
Which river is in the Lemaire province? Hey, Zelia, I got one right.
Done.
Alright, cool. Which of these phrases appear on a Trail of the Cold Steel for DLC self-asserted panel? Oh my goddess?
Correct.
You can never know this, you just have to guess. But oh my goddess seems to remind me of an old manga I know of.
Next.
What's the Trails Cold Steel opening theme? Cold Steels. Ashita no Kodo.
Done.
So not with Kaseki in it. Alright. Now let's challenge it again until we fulfill the brief of, well, being master of this section. And we only need 10 right answers?
Then we'll be... May destiny guide... Oh, next. Oh, have you got it? Incorrect. Well done. Next. Well done. Correct. Next. Correct. Oh, next. Oh. Have you got it? Well done. Have you got it? Clever soul. Oh, why don't we continue? Correct. Incorrect. Oh, next. Oh.
Alright, not bad. Took me 4
Very
tries
well.
to get through
You
it.
pass.
Very luckily that there were a lot of repeat questions with every round, so it made it easier to remember. But here we are.
I divined this conclusion myself.
Thank you.
It's time to play. If you dare.
No, I've done it enough. True Hades Gem, thank you very much. Alright, daydreams fulfilled. Let's get down there, open it up and confirm that there is no more daydreams after this one.
Central core activated.
Alright, so like I said before, I will leave the episode here. If you all want me to read out other stories that is in the Daydream, let me know down in the comments and I will record it and put it up there for all to see. If not, then with this is our final episode of Trails into Reverie, and yes, we're gonna start off with Daybreak on the next one. And I can't wait. A new story arc, a new gang of characters are gonna be totally new from the beginning again, and then another region, and I'm very curious to see who we gonna meet up when we get there. Will it be Rufus and his group? Will it be Rean, as we learn now that he goes down on family vacation? Maybe it's during the game that happens, and now we are informed of that. I do not know, we'll have to see. So, for now, I wish you all a great night, morning, day, wherever you are, and if you're still here, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and be back next time. But until then, bye bye.